From the top rope, this is the Squared Circus.
Square! Ah! That's the occult phenomenon. You know what I think?
Recording in progress.
I realize I like paint.
That was a botch. Hold on.
So, anyway, that's how it's gonna go.
So, I was reading an article about Wheeler's arrest.
Oh yeah,
and they're still questioning. I don't think anyone really knows yet if he could go to UK or not. You hear some sides of people saying that because he got arrested, it might be really hard.
I heard he can. I heard unless he's convicted, and it has to be like, I forget, but because right now he's just charged, right? He hasn't been found guilty.
No, but he did get arrested though, and because so who knows? Normally, even if there is a thing going on, there's still issues with like traveling across, like with your visa, because even if you have a trial going on. So I'm not sure.
I mean, I don't think there's a trial going on yet. I don't think anything's going on yet.
Because
I mean, Collision yesterday. Today is Sunday. They announced it. They had a package about the match coming up at All In. So I mean, I have to assume that Tony Khan did his due diligence to find out whether or not he could go.
And money talks too. They could get like a one-off, like saying, hey, just not because it's new. They could probably make it like worded better, like worded where like it's okay for him to go. Same thing with Jay. Jay had like a special two when they went across the borders, but he can't really anymore.
Jay who?
Jay Uso, because of his when he got arrested. So that's what it made me think. That's what made me think about Wheeler. So I'm like, okay, this is like a bad timing though.
Bad timing. It's like right in the middle of a week called, Fight for the Fallen, which was originally to be like in support of victims of gun violence, and he gets arrested for having a firearm.
And it could be all full of shit too. It was only one person I heard like that.
Yeah.
The one person's statement was only in. There was no witnesses, no nothing. So
right. With
it could
Jay
be all
Uso,
full of shit.
With Jay Uso, what was drunk driving or something?
Yeah. And like other shit too, I think. But like they had videos and shit, so he was definitely
He did the thing. Like right now, Cash Wheeler is just accused. Nobody knows what happened. It was a road rage incident apparently, and what I heard was like this guy saw Cash, whatever his real name is, I don't know, driving erratically, and then followed him and gave him the business, and then Cash pulled out a gun and said, like, leave me alone, basically. So it's like, who knows? That guy was road raging. How reliable is he,
Yeah.
And what was the threat? I don't know. I really just don't know.
The story I heard was his statement, the actual guy's statement, was that he saw Wheeler swerving, and he didn't know what's going on or whatever, and then he was still behind him, and then all of a sudden he was close to him and he saw him swerving, so he wanted to go back, and like they just kind of played tag like that for a little bit, and then finally when like he wasn't going fast or whatever, he just kind of like pulled to the side and went up, and Wheeler had a shotgun on the
what was a shotgun?
On the windshield. Yeah, that's from what I remember. That's what I heard. I was like, I'm like, okay. I'm like, I could have maybe like mistaken, but I believe it said shotgun. I'm like, all right, and it's just a wrong timing, bad timing for everything. I mean, that's all over the news now, like all over the forums and this and that, because that can affect people of saying, you know what, you're gonna drop the belts now. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like this could be where maybe they weren't going to drop the belts and they were actually going to beat the Bucks, but now they're probably going to change it because he has to go to the trial, and they probably don't want to deal with them being. Think about it, so this could have changed the outcome of that match.
Yeah. And here's something that our last episode we were pretty critical of the card, and I mean, some more matches have been announced since then. I don't think the attitudes have changed from the wrestling watching community. But The way Dave Meltzer put it, I thought was amusing. Basically, he said if FTR is not able to do that match, it basically turns into a one-match card, basically implying that Adam Cole versus MJF is the only significant match, and everything else is filler.
Yeah.
And that may or may not be true. We ended the last episode where we were very critical of it, trying to be positive and saying, it's still going to be great fun.
Yep. I still think that.
I still do.
Now,
I mean, there's no way a match like Omega Ibushi and Hangman versus Jay White, Juice Robinson, and Takeshita is not going to be awesome. Everybody in that match is awesome, and it will be awesome. But it doesn't have any significance. It's just look what these guys can do.
So now, if it's a week and a half away or whatever the fuck it is, what would you do if they all of a sudden FTR can't wrestle? Like what? How do you actually fix that?
I don't know.
The Young Bucks has to fight someone, the feud with someone. They're not going to sit there and be like, well, we're not going to. They're definitely going to wrestle.
I mean, I don't think there's a chance of FTR not wrestling. If they hadn't just announced the Joe versus Punk match, then I would say, put Punk in there with Dax maybe, and it doesn't have to be for the belts, but that'll still be a big match, Punk and Dax versus the Young Bucks. Although there's still the whole Young Bucks Punk thing, but who knows if they would put that aside for this, or putting somebody else with Dax works.
Yet. I don't think it'll be any time yet.
I know, but this is how hard it is to put wrestling together,
and that's why, like I was saying, like we were being so critical, but I'm like, they probably waited because of shit like this, and then all of a sudden, shit like this
last
happened.
Minute, yeah,
and you're like, okay, even if it works out, I guarantee you, I just have a strong feeling that they're gonna lose the belts now because of this.
Yeah,
and I could be wrong. Maybe Kong is gonna, because they shouldn't. FTR should keep the belts.
They should.
But for some strange reason, I never had a doubt, but now I do. I feel like they're gonna lose them now, just because
that might make it a better match.
That's right? True. As they win too, doubt. People are like, wait, what? Yep.
Yeah.
I still think the crowd is gonna make it. What other new matches do they do?
Well, the Punk and Joe match was the big one they announced yesterday, and I just want to talk about that one for a second. Because thinking about that match, like Punk obviously was in the middle of a feud with Ricky Starks. Oh, they had a great. Did you watch yesterday Collision?
No.
Yeah, they had a great package. Ricky Starks. He's just so great. He did a little promo, and then he did. They did basically it looked like a old cologne ad. Yeah, I mean that's how it was shot. But it was just him being very, fashionable looking but talking a lot of shit. And basically, this was I think how they decided to explain his heel turn. I've always been this guy. You may have thought that I was somebody else, but this is how it's always been, and blah blah blah. I'm not taking shit from anybody. It was great. But to me, and Starks and Punk match was a lot more compelling than Punk versus Joe. The feud between Punk and Starks, and it was getting a lot of heat. So it seemed to me why put that on hold to have Punk versus Joe, especially when they already did that recently. And do you have a
theory?
A theory? I have a theory. What's your theory?
My theory is that Starks is going to run in, make sure that interfere and cause whatever it is. No one's going to lose the belts. I don't think any of us thinks that either one, because it's not even a belt match, is it?
I think so for
Punk's his
belt.
Yeah, Punk's not losing, but I think what's going to happen is that Starks is going to interfere and cause shit where there's going to be no winner, and then that's going to be the match for All Out.
Okay, and that makes sense, and that makes more sense. I don't know but to me, it's I don't. Why sacrifice? Why make All In It makes sense, but it doesn't make
Well,
sense in terms of
you have to
like
have some big matches too for All Out to actually sell or
right.
have some kind of show.
Well,
So
you saw where I was going. The idea
yeah,
of like having All In being the build up to All Out to me feels backwards.
but I don't think. But see, I kind of disagree though because I don't think they're doing that with all of them. But I feel like if they do it with one or two of them to lead on to it, so at least like you have something to look forward to then for All Out.
Yeah. Well,
But like you're figuring that one, all the throwaway ones could always lead into shit. Like you know what I'm saying? Like
and they will.
let's say the BB whatever the fuck they called Black Bean shit against what's it called Best
Best
Friends.
friends and all that.
Yeah, so suppose like when they do it, something still goes on to Orange and Mox, where that leads on to just their one-on-one at All
Oh,
Out.
I'm
Do you know
sure
what I'm
that's
saying?
what's going to happen.
But I'm saying like, so maybe that's why they're figuring, okay, we'll have a great match, but it still has some kind of story to lead on. So I'm okay with that because it's very risky doing a week away, like
Yeah.
to sell and this and that. So and they have to start getting their shit together too if they're gonna do a bundle of
Oh, yeah, yeah.
the thing. If not, I
Pay-per-views.
mean, I'll pay for one. We'll go switching back and forth
Yeah,
when we do it
whatever.
more. But
My Go ahead.
no, go ahead.
My theory is a lot more cynical business oriented theory, and that's just that basically Joe is an ex WWE guy, has more name recognition. Tony Khan said this guy Ricky Starks isn't going to be the big draw. I'm going to put Joe in there because more people know Joe than know Ricky Starks. And to me, if that's the case, and I do believe it is, if I had a guess, it's to me, it's like it speaks to like what is this show for? And it made everything kind of make sense to me in a cynical way that like all the complaints about this card I think is basically comes down to uh who the show is for, right? Tony Khan putting Joe in there to me says that this card is for the casual fans, not the diehards, right? The diehards want to see Ricky Starks.
Mm.
But I think Tony Khan is still trying to get the WWE fans. He sees this as this big forum to expand his reach. And instead of creating this show for the fans that are already there, he's trying to use it to bring new fans in. And that I think might be underlying what is upsetting everybody, and they don't really know quite like how to put that into words. Like you're not doing this for us. You're doing this for other cynical business reasons. What do we want as fans who have been here since day one, who were at the original All In or watched the original All In, were excited about it and have been watching AEW since the first pay-per-view and are rooting for all these guys, and you give us an ex-WWE guy who everybody likes, but is not the guy that they wanted, who they had to shoehorn into a new storyline with Punk and put the more compelling storyline on pause because he's a bigger name. And that's how I feel about it. And that's why it's a lot of these matches feel like showcase matches instead of storyline matches. Let's see what we can show everybody to entice them to our product. If we're going to show them this fast-paced 3-man, 6-man tag match, that's going to be a lot more compelling to the casual viewer.
Well,
but it won't have the storyline.
They do those matches
implications
anyway. I mean, honestly,
No, they do. They have to do them.
Yeah, I think though, like I see both sides with the whole putting Joe in there because of the whole popularity. Because I'm pretty sure like networks networks have some kind of play on it too.
Yeah.
Where like what I'm saying, I'm sure like don't get me wrong, I think Kong made some stupid like mistakes, but again, it's only 4 years. But I do believe networks have some kind of say and saying, hey man, we can say we would like this and that. I'm like, or whatever. So I'm sure everything it's I don't know. It's gonna be hard to again put two shows in a week apart. So I believe that's the reason why they did that is that okay, we need to save some for the second show because what the fuck are we gonna do? you can't have the same exact pay-per-view event. Like,
right.
you know what I'm saying? Like, that's what WWE does.
Yeah. And I mean, some of that, like, they dealt with, like, right. So Punk basically is in two feuds, right? Joe and Ricky Starks, right? He's got two stories going. Another wrestler has two stories going is Darby Allin. And basically what they did with him was like, we're going to do one story at All In, and we're going to do the other story at All Out. So he's got the match with Sting versus Swerve and AR Fox and All In, and then All Out, he's going to face Luchasaurus for the TNT title, which I think he should. Which I think he should win. Yeah. Yep.
Was there more matches announced?
There were two matches. And before I mention that, I do want to say one thing. We had, I think, our last video, somebody had commented that he understood why, because we had a lot of criticisms of like everybody's in these tag matches and not one-on-one matches with more significance. And I thought Darby versus Swerve would be more compelling, and it would be. But that like you had to have Sting there. And how else are you going to have Sting on the card unless you put him with Darby? And I agree with that, right? Sting has to be there. He can't be in a one-on-one match. He has to be with Darby, and that makes sense. And that's just part of the challenges of booking something like this.
My thing was, I suggested, was you still have him there, but he's on the side like he was. Same thing with whoever's on Swerve side, and then like if they get interference and this and that, he'll still have his moments, but it's still a one-on-one to feel special.
And he'll still get that huge pop, and it'll still be a great moment if AR Fox, if it's one-on-one Swerve versus Darby, and AR Fox comes in and interferes, and then Sting jumps up and gets in his face and does a Scorpion Death Drop. The crowd will go nuts, and they'll have that Sting moment, and they will love it. And you're right, yeah, that would probably be as much of a moment as he needs, and probably more effective.
And again,
I understand both. I understand both.
I understand both. I understand both sides, definitely. And like once again, I think they did an excellent job at Sting. I have to say that all the time because I do feel like that he is the most perfect example of what you should do with one of the veterans.
There's a handful of things I want to talk about that's like really good stuff that I like, but right now let's finish this line of thinking. So the other match they announced was for All Out was Miro versus Hobbs.
I could saw that coming, and that's good because you know what, that people do like each one of those. They do have their fans. I don't know why, but I'm just kidding. But no, so that'll be good for All Out because that's another storyline that's been brewing anyway. So it's good to not take up the London because don't waste it for that. Waste it for a show that you're going to sell 20,000 tickets.
Yeah, and like I'm not a big fan of Miro, but he has a lot of fans. He gets a pop when he shows up, and people like him. It's interesting that he's not on All In, and especially from what I was saying earlier, and this contradicts what I said. Like if he wants the bigger names and the people who were originally or came over from WWE that are more recognizable, Miro would be one of those people. So
I don't think he has that much of he definitely doesn't have a much fan base than Joe.
No, I don't think so.
No way in hell. I don't like Joe, but I hear the fact of how bad, like how people pop and do his shit. They love him.
Joe has a history. Years in Ring of Honor and TNA, and his, people still talk about his feud with Kurt Angle and stuff. So there's definitely more there, but it was interesting to me.
And I don't hate him.
Yeah,
because you know what it is. I got a lot of respect for him once I watched Twisted Metal when he was Sweet Tooth. So now I'm like, okay, I just think of Sweet Tooth every time he comes out.
Well, it's funny, man. It's like things outside of wrestling will make me change my mind about wrestlers that I don't love. Big Bill is one. There's an interview he did recently or a couple of months ago. I'm like, this is like a nice guy, like a very introspective, smart person. I mean, and I loved the original rendition of Cass and Enzo in NXT.
Yeah.
The big dog, little dog dynamic they have. And of course, that got watered down when they went to WWE, and they both seemed to me to turn into kind of unsavory personalities, and that ruined them for me. Um, but then, yeah, Big Bill coming back, and he was just very honest about his drinking problem and mental health issues, and so that went a long way for me. And so, like now, like I'm rooting for Big Bill, and he's gotten better. Like he's obviously put the work in.
Yeah. And he doesn't seem like a dick anymore.
No, he doesn't.
That's probably comes with the alcohol and drugs and all that.
Right. And incidentally, he showed up on Collision, so he's going to be like Ricky Starks' muscle, as it were. And I think that's cool because they had him with Brian Cage, who is somebody I'm also not a fan of. So putting him with Ricky Starks is a lot more palatable for me.
Yeah.
So yeah, so the same way that you warmed up to Joe, I warmed up to somebody like Big Bill. But I forgot where we were going before that.
We're talking
tangent.
about the two matches that was an all out.
Yeah,
They still didn't announce the combo price. We mentioned that. But
so that's it for. Do you have any other thoughts on All In?
Not really, because now it's kind of like what you have one Wednesday and one Friday left. And you said Saturday is going to be taped, right?
Saturday, yeah. From what I understand, it's going to be taped. It's going to be taped along with Dynamite, I think. I don't know. They're taping all three in one night? That's a long show.
Well, no, it won't be three. Why would it
Rampage.
be Rampage and Collision.
Dynamite, Rampage, and Collision. Or are they taping Collision with Rampage?
So, okay. So they're doing that. That's going to be a very long.
I would think, right? Because that's a travel weekend. They're not going to have a show on Friday and then fly in on Saturday and then do the show on Sunday. That's a lot.
Yeah, so it's got to be taped.
Yeah,
maybe it's like a Thursday or I mean they might just do two separate tickets. Like they're gonna black it out anyway. They always tend to like get like 4,000 people in the crowd and then black out the rest.
Yeah. So can we talk about like just a couple of things that are like really cool that are happening? Like we've talked a lot of like criticism. I want to just show appreciation for the stuff that I love. Like I know for you, one thing that's like one of your favorite things right now is Christian Cage pretending he's the champ, walking around with the belt, acting like.
Wait, wasn't he supposed to have a match and they actually posted his face on it? I was curious to see if Luchasaurus came out or if it was him.
Well, there was a match yesterday on Collision, Darby versus Christian Cage, which the crowd loved, and it was a very good match.
Oh, Christian Cage actually wrestled?
He wrestled against Darby. He came out with the belt. Yeah.
That's funny. They because I know there was some matches where like they said that he was going to be matching, but it would be like Luchasaurus going in instead.
Oh, funny! Like, no, he actually wrestled.
So I think that would have been funny. Like if he was supposed to go against Ricky, but then like Lucha just kind of came out and wrestled instead. And he's just sitting there holding the belt. Yes, but
I like that.
I love it though. I just think it's funny how he grabbed the belt. Yeah, that is one of the storylines. I think it's kind of. I think we know where it's going to probably, but yeah, it's just a fun ride.
One of my favorite things right now is Toni Storm. You haven't watched the last two shows.
Yeah, I haven't watched 2 shows. I haven't seen it.
But I've seen this
one promo.
Yeah, she's been doing it for a couple of weeks, so you would have seen it. But like, she's doing this like Sunset Boulevard. Do you know that movie Sunset Boulevard?
Yeah.
She's doing the Sunset Boulevard like, I'm still big. It's the pictures that got small character. She comes out in a robe and curlers in her hair, and she's very much like, somebody who's like the business let her down, but she's not ready to let go. If you haven't seen Sunset Boulevard, obviously you have, but like the whole premise is it's this old, I mean, this is in the 50s. So this is like a silent film actress who aged out of the business, but refuses to let go and just lives like a hermit in this house where she just watches her own old movies all the time and pretends that she's still a star. And in the outside world, nobody knows about her, but in her little cocoon, she's still like the hottest star in Hollywood. And I feel like that's kind of where Toni Storm's, if she's not getting her inspiration directly from that, it's something like that. And to me, I don't know, Sunset Boulevard is one of the greatest movies of all time. It's in that conversation with Citizen Kane and Casablanca and on the waterfront, right? I mean, it's all time great. So that's a storyline that, you know, is tried and true. And she's pulling it off.
Mm.
And to me, it's way more interesting than just like the Outcasts, which is just like, obviously she's still part of that, but like, which is like, hey, we're a bunch of badasses, and that's the whole shtick. This is a little more interesting. This is somebody who is like refusing to accept the fact that she lost the belt and is having. Do you remember? Oh, you didn't really watch a lot of New Japan. There was a few years ago after Okada lost the belt, and he got all weird, and he was changing his hair color, and he was like, before he does a move, he'd say like Scooby Dooby Doo. And it was just like he was losing his mind, and the whole idea was just like he didn't know how to handle not being the top guy anymore. So he started getting like unhinged, and it was almost like a midlife crisis type of vibe, you know. It was wonderful. And I feel like Toni Storm's doing that now, and it's one of the more compelling characters on the show because it's a little more complex than just like I'm a badass in a leather jacket.
Yeah, yeah. I love how Adam Cole and MGF is forming and how they took that. And I'm sure it's lasting longer than they expected, but because the crowd's loving it, they're just continuing on.
It's amazing. That's something that just like, I don't know how intentional it was or how organic it was, like you were saying, but lightning in a bottle, like that just worked, you know? And I don't think Adam Cole is on MJF's level personally, and I think MJF should win. I think Adam Cole is great. And I mentioned this in the last show, like, you know, they're maybe two of the best talkers, maybe two of three. MJF, Eddie, and then Adam Cole.
Yeah.
But it's brilliant, and I feel like it's the kind of thing that you couldn't do on purpose, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like you put them together as an odd couple. Obviously, you knew something good would happen, but I don't know, the best things feel the most organic, and it's its own momentum. It's just carrying it to a level that I don't even think Tony Khan or anybody involved in the booking could have imagined.
Yeah, absolutely. And because I think they were supposed to turn on each other the last match, you know, when they lost, even though they didn't win the belts, but like that match. But I just think that they like because even like the commercials that they're doing, even like for the stupid like game that they have out, like everything is just like brilliant of what they're doing.
Oh, they did some social media stuff too. I think I didn't.
Yeah,
I don't remember. I didn't really see,
and,
but I heard some stuff about it.
And they're definitely like playing it out good. Where like like I like when like MGF is also huge with being in character, even when like he's like out of the ring. So that's what they're doing. They're both like still doing like a lot of shit in character and stuff like that. And I just think it's incredible.
And he's right. Nobody's on his level. Like that line, nobody's on the level of the devil.
Yep,
it's true.
He's proven, especially with this, because now it's like when he first came out, like he had some good promos, but like they started to sound the same almost. But then all of a sudden he does this kind of character, and you're like, okay, he could do it all. Like he's getting it over with all. Like because he's almost like a face, but he's still heel. Like you know, it's weird. It's like he made his own character, like his own persona, where like no one really does this. Normally you're a heel, or it's not even an anti either. No. Like I don't even know what you call it.
Yep, it's its own thing. It's not like the Steve Austin anti-hero or like a tweener. It's its own thing.
It's insane. I think it's actually pretty amazing.
And while we're on the subject of Long Islanders, it's funny that three of like the four things I'm thinking of right now that are like my favorite things are all involve Long Islanders. And that's not because I'm from Long Island. I just love them. Willow right now I think is magnificent. You didn't watch Collision, so I'll just briefly talk about it. She's another one who just like natural momentum. She got over. She has a great energy, and the crowd loves her. You know, she had a match against Diamante on Collision this week, and It was a pretty slow match. It wasn't the greatest match for most of it, but she got the crowd. Before that match was over, she had the crowd behind her. And she really she figured out how to draw them in with a match that was kind of like, you know, to use a word MJF likes to use, a little bit mid. She took it from there and brought it to the next level. And all of a sudden the crowd's chanting her name and they're behind her. Chris Statlander comes out and there's all this energy and it's great. I love the energy of Willow Nightingale. And I think it's a shame. I don't think she'll be at All In, but I don't know. I love her every time she comes out. It's fun. And what's the other thing? What's the other Long Islander thing that I love right now? Can you guess?
Eddie. Everyone loves Eddie.
Eddie's not from Long Island. I do love Eddie.
I know he's not from Long Island.
Let's talk about Eddie for a second. Like, I'm glad he's on All In.
Yeah, I'm actually glad he's on. And we kind of figured, maybe this is the reason why they did the 6-on-6, just to get Eddie in. Which is
I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, because that's the funny thing about it though. Like we're sitting there saying, why is there a fucking 12-on-12, like a 12-person match? But then I'm like, okay, what would Eddie do? But then we would get pissed off if Eddie wasn't on the card.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So it kind of intertwines. But
yeah. But they didn't have a story for Eddie because he was in the G1 for like a month, which is also awesome. I didn't watch any of the G1 this year. This might be the first year I didn't watch any of it in like 7 years. But that was cool too, because I would still look up Eddie stuff, and he did some, he did the usual backstage after the match promos, and it was all great. It was all wonderful, and just Eddie, just being Eddie, and like loving his life, having that opportunity to go to Japan and be in the G1 and live his dreams, so great. And I'm glad that energy is going to be at All In. I wish they would have done a little bit more with him prior to it. Hopefully he shows up this week, does a little promo, but I'm just glad he's going to be there. It's close to Long Island. Yonkers
is close.
Not far.
It's far. Who's the other long? Because I'm thinking of everyone fucking in WWE.
The Acclaimed.
Oh, they're back. That's right.
They're back.
And I still feel that Billy Gunn will go to House of Black.
I think so. Right now, he's MIA. They've done some things where, they talked about where's Billy Gunn. Not where's Billy Gunn, but like we miss him. He's retired. Nobody's actually. He never said he's retired. He took off his boots. The assumption is retired. The Acclaimed are doing promos like, "Oh, we're gonna miss you." House of Black came out and had his boots and talked some shit, and I don't remember. I have a hard time paying attention to House of Black because I just don't fucking like the gimmick. I don't like the spooky Game of Thrones, whatever the fuck they're going for thing. I like everybody individually. They're all good wrestlers, including Julia Hart. She has a cool vibe, but as a collective, I don't know. But I mean, I love the Acclaimed. I love what they've done this entire year. The whole momentum and just organically getting over with the crowd and going with it, giving them the belts, all this stuff. And the idea of like, where do you go with it? Right. They're doing more with it right now. Billy Gunn leaving his boots in the ring, but never saying anything. So we have to assume he's coming back, right? Because they keep talking about it. And House of Black did a thing with the boots. Presumably, Billy Gunn's going to come back, do a match with House of Black on the side of the Acclaimed, and turn on the Acclaimed. They'll lose. Billy Gunn will go over to House of Black in whatever role it is. Yeah. It won't be a quote-unquote retirement. It'll be a change of persona. Billy Gunn being spooky. I can get behind that. A guy who's been in the business like 35 years doing a complete left turn, going from his gimmick with the Acclaimed, going from like a cowboy gimmick to like a douchey frat boy gimmick with DX to like his gimmick with the Acclaimed to, what haven't I done? Completely out of left field, spooky Game of Thrones. Because it's so out of character, I can appreciate that. and I think that'll be cool.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. It is gonna be hard though, like for him not to be with the Acclaimed.
Yeah,
But
it'll be weird, and I don't.
but they
think
obviously have to break it up eventually. I mean, it's not like the Acclaim needs something else. I
Right.
still love them, but they just need something else. So
Right.
they have to like not totally, because I don't want them to change most of their stuff. I just think they need to get away from the whole that ass shit and this and that, whatever, and try to go back to them being a little bit more I don't want to say hard, like a little bit more serious in a way, even though they're
Right.
still doing the rap and stuff like that, just a little bit more serious to like, so people think that you're a threat.
Yeah, but
Well,
I think that's what's great about this, like, because this allows them to keep some momentum going. It gives them a new aspect to their personas, and when it's over, they can go back to what they were doing before. Right? If they just kept doing the same thing, it would get old. But they can do A, then go to B, and then go back to A, and it'll still feel fresh because you had that break in the middle with B.
Yeah. And that's not during All In though, right? Isn't that going to be?
Nothing's announced. So far, it just
like
teases.
that match?
There's no match announced.
Oh,
as far as I know.
I thought maybe it was going to be like coming up soon or something like that.
No, I mean, there's supposed to be more things announced this week. Which is crazy.
Maybe it'd be all out.
I hope they're at All In.
I don't
Like,
I don't know. I can't. There's so many goddamn matches already. This shit's gonna be like fucking forever if they keep on adding matches.
we have a minute left, but right now, this is what they got: MJF versus Adam Cole, FTR versus the Young Bucks, the Women's 4-Way Championship, Punk versus Joe, Darby and Sting versus Swerve and Fox, the 6-man or 6-on-6 Stadium Stampede, the Golden Elite match, Jericho versus Ospreay. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 matches, which is a lot, but I think they can still put one in there. I'd like to see Statlander in there with a TBS match. But right now, there's only one match on the pre-show, and that's the Aussie Open versus Adam Cole and MJF. There's room on the pre-show. Put some stuff on the pre-show.
Yeah, that's true. That is true. There's only one match so far in the pre-show.
Yeah, you're gonna have like an hour-long pre-show.
So maybe they'll do that. That's actually a good point. Maybe they'll that's fine then, because you can't. I don't know, because I also don't want all these matches to be like fucking 10 minutes long. You know, like one of them, like the first match is probably going to be like a half hour or whatever, and